everybody to the Single and Stilettos Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Des O'Connor, and he's a relationship coach and success mentor, and I'm so excited to have him here because he's calling in all the way from the UK, lovely London, one of my favorite cities, and he has an amazing accent, ladies, so you're going to love it. And today we're going to be talking about why do I keep attracting the wrong men? And the reason why I wanted to do this interview is because I hear this all the time from women is they're like, I keep attracting the wrong men. Well, there's something else going on there. And I'm sure Des is going to tell us what's going on there. And I'm sure I'll chime in too. But before we get started, Des, will you tell our audience how you became a relationship coach and a little bit about you?
Hi there, everybody. First of all, I came out of a very painful divorce and I started to work on myself and realized that as I was working on myself, I started to take part in coaching, life coaching. And it was around about the time when The Secret came out, 2006, I think. And I realized I had this skill applying what I learned from my coaching that I was using with single women and how they can easily and quickly and effortlessly find and attract the right man into their life. And since then, I've been running workshops and seminars and webinars all over the world, serving women and how they can easily do that. I've had lots of weddings, even an engagement from yesterday. I got told because of one of the women applied my tips from my webinar, how she went out and actually took action.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, so I was at a wedding last year. I was the only one allowed to make a speech at the wedding, and she found her husband only after about 3 coaching sessions with me as well. So it does work if you take action.
It does work. You're absolutely right. And didn't you win an award for something? Tell us about that.
Yes, over here in the UK, we have the largest personal development coaches and consultants and trainers association called the Association of Professional Coaches, Trainers and Consultants, APCTC. And gladly and proudly, I won the Relationship Coach of the Year of the award out of all the relationship coaches in the UK last year. So that's absolutely fantastic for that last year.
Well, that is amazing. So congratulations on that. So
Thank
ladies, Des obviously knows what he's talking about. So I know we're dying to know. So why do you think some women they keep attracting the wrong men?
One of the things that I always say to women is, the first thing is, they need to understand that they have all the answers as to why they're single. And they have all the answers as to why they're attracting anything into their life. Because what happens is, once the women understand that, then they can work out a plan, learning from what's happened in the past and how they can move forward for that. So things like, where do you usually go? Honestly, when I ask these women these questions, I ask them honestly, the places that you usually go on a regular basis, you know, the ones that you go there with your girlfriends and you're hoping to meet a guy there, but you don't want to make it obvious you're looking for a guy there, but you know those types of places. Now, these types of places, you need to be honest with yourself. First of all, decide on exactly what type of man you want. It's so important that you understand exactly the type of man that you want. And I get all my clients to write that down and carry it around with them in their bag every single day, because it plays on their conscious mind and as well as their subconscious as well. And then once you decide exactly what you want and you've really honed in on that, you will then not attract the men that you don't want, because what then happens then is your focus is only on primarily what you're looking for. So let's say, for example, you want a man that wants to settle down and get married, and you're hell-bent on that. And before, you was just, oh, I don't know if I do, I don't know if I want. If that's what your focus is coming into the new year, that's what your focus is. When the men that are going to be approaching you that just want to have fun, not looking for a serious relationship, 1, you won't entertain them, and 2, you won't waste any time and energy sleeping with the wrong guys and wasting all the energy and time, because you need to know what you're looking for in the beginning. So what needs to happen is, when you actually start to meet these men, you need to start having a plan in place. And what I mean by that is, when you're going for a job interview, you have a plan in place, don't you? You want to identify exactly what you want in that job. You want to know about the salary, you want the location, the perks, all those kind of things, location. Now, a lot of women do not use the same strategy when you're going out on a date. So because if you can you imagine if you're going out on a date and you're meeting loads of different men, or you're meeting them genuinely, if you got a plan in place and you know which questions to ask to determine whether these men are compatible with your beliefs, your goals, and your values, then by asking them simple questions like, "Where do you see yourself in 3 years?" Now, that one answer, that one question, will tell you a lot about that man. Because if he says to you, "Well, in 3 years, I don't really know what I want," and then you could say to him, "Okay, well, guess what? Ideally, how would you want your life to be in 3 years?" Now, he's either going to tell you he wants to be settled down and have married and have a family or having children. Now, if that's exactly what you're looking for, hey, you're compatible in that area. Because most men don't share that with you until you really get to know them, spending lots of time with them, sleeping with them, etc. And then at the end of those 3, 4 months, you would find yourself that, oh, he didn't actually want that. But that's the way that you can establish whether he's compatible and whether, if you're the type of woman that wants to settle down and get married, for argument's sake, or have a serious relationship, by asking that question to a man, he has to answer it in a way that you can then make a conscious decision based on that answer. And from then, you can move on from that as well.
Right. But when you were talking about in going out to the same places to meet men, that's not a question though that you're saying to ask like right then. You're saying like if you were to go out on a first date or second date, maybe asking that question, right? Because don't you think it would be a little forward to ask that question when you just meet him out?
No, but if you meet him in a wine bar for argument's sake, and the conversation starts getting a bit deeper, and you start, we've all been there. We've met someone. We talk about exes. We talk about our family. We talk about where we want to be in the future. It's
Right.
the way and the correct time you ask that question. Don't ask that in the first 10 minutes. But as things are going along, what are you passionate about? What do you like to do? Do you like sports? Do you like to travel where you've been? And then you could say, oh, great. What about your career? Tell me about your career. What do you like about that career? Why did you choose that? And then she could subtly just say, so, where do you see yourself in 3 years? That would be the right time to ask that question, not in the first 5, 10 minutes, if that makes sense.
Yes, that totally makes sense. Now, I want to play devil's advocate because I work with both men and women, so I hear this a lot from my male clients, right? Is
Yeah.
they'll say when these women that they go out on a date with or they meet ask all these questions up front, like you were just saying, they always feel like they're on a job interview and that the woman's going down a checklist. So my question to you is how can a woman find out the answers to these types of questions without feeling like making the man feel like she's interrogating him, because that's awkward for a guy too, because then he's just kind of like pulls back and goes, God, are you qualifying me, you know?
I totally understand that. And like I said before, it all comes down to the timing of the questions and how they are asked. There's a time and a place to do that. Now, if a man really likes a woman and the night and the evening is going according to plan, she could ask him anything. If he likes her, you know that, Suzanne. If he likes her, it doesn't really matter what the question's going to be. Because as a man, if I like a woman and she's asking me, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I like her, I'm going to tell her what I think she wants to hear. Because on our first dates, we're on our best behavior. We're not showing our true self, really, are we? But it's all about women understanding men and understanding the right times of when to ask those questions and getting the flow of it and picking the right time. But that's a key question. And I'd most probably ask that question most probably in the last 15, 20 minutes of the evening. And then she can elaborate on that answer as well. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? But building up to that, start getting him to talk about himself a lot more and asking open questions, what questions that start with why, where, how, because that way he can elaborate more about himself. Because let's be honest now, you as the woman wants to know as much information about this man as possible when you're first meeting him in the first few dates.
Exactly, and I completely agree with you. Now, I have a theory about why some women keep attracting the wrong men, and I want to ask your opinion on that. And one of the things that when a woman whenever a woman says to me, I keep attracting the wrong men, they always think the common denominator is actually all the men, right? That they've dated in the past or they married or whatever it is or been in a relationship with. And I always turn it around and say, that's actually not the common denominator. The common denominator is actually you, right?
That's
Yourself.
right.
And so, like Des said, is that you need to look inward and kind of figure out what's going on there, because I think a lot of women tend to look outward and go, what's wrong with all these men? No, you're just choosing the wrong men and you're attracting the wrong men. So what I always tell my clients is you need to look at your past relationship history. And I actually say to sit down and write this down and say what were all the good things about this guy, the bad things, what went right, what went wrong. And I guarantee you will see patterns, because I do this with
Definitely.
all of my clients, and you will start to see, oh, there was that red flag because he was just like blah, 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 and I should have walked away a lot sooner. Do you
That's
agree
right.
with all of this?
I totally agree, Suzanne. And one of the questions I ask my clients is, honestly, first thing, they need to be honest with themselves. And you're absolutely right about looking within themselves. But most women that do not understand looking within themselves and self-development, I mean, if you think back before we knew all this stuff, I was a nightmare to date. I didn't know about taking responsibility. I was one of the ones that was blame, blame, blame. You made me do this, you made me do that, and I hated all women, but I still wanted women in my life. But one of the key things that you're right, the women are choosing the wrong men, and they need to take responsibility for that, but they don't know how. And they don't have a strategy of how to choose the right men. And you're absolutely right by that. And then one of the things that I say to women is, if you was to honestly ask your ex-boyfriends what they loved about you and what they hated about you, you would see a pattern. And those patterns, unless you identify and be honest with yourself, will carry on with you into your future relationships. There's always going to be a pattern. So, for example, if you're the type of woman that's always loud and aggressive and argumentative, and sometimes, always got to have the last say, I guarantee you, your previous relationships, most of the men are going to say that you had too much mouth, or you was loud and you was aggressive, and then there's a pattern, because most men do not like women that talks a lot and are very aggressive to them and very confrontational and argumentative. So if that's the case, she needs to look at, why are you like that? Where has that come from? And are you getting any help with that? Now, it doesn't mean that you don't need a coach. You may want to just get some counseling or even read a book, because we just work on relationships to relationships, going through a pattern and a routine. And sometimes we don't even know what we're doing. We're just going from relationship to relationship thinking, okay, right, he looks good, she looks good, the sex is good, we're having a wonderful time, and what will be, will be. But there's always a pattern. And even myself, we've always been there, until you really look in yourself and say, actually, you know something? I've got some stuff here I need to deal with. I've got some issues I need to work with, and once they understand that and they identify what that is, then they will start making better choices. Because the key thing here, as you said, Suzanne, is making the right choices. And most women don't even have an idea exactly what they want.
Exactly. And I want to just say this because, Des, you touched upon this too, but first of all, it's not easy to look inward. It's not, because you're facing your biggest fears and what's wrong with me, or what do I need to fix? So it isn't easy. But I will tell you, I'm not perfect. Des is not perfect. I actually did this with my own past relationship history, and I saw what my patterns is. And I will tell you, being self-aware of what your patterns are makes it so much easier going forward. And Des, you did the work too. So ladies, as hard as it can be, sometimes you have to do it. And I'm telling you, it's going to help you so much more in the future in developing healthy relationships and attracting the right guy.
That's right.
So we're going to end on this note. So Des, please tell our audience how they can find you.
They can find me at www.icanfindyouTheRightMan.com. That's icanfindyouTheRightMan.com. That's the name of my book, which is coming out in June the 6th over here in the UK. and I'm hoping to be touring the US as well in the next year as well. So www.icanfindyoutheriightman.com, or you can find me on Twitter and Facebook under Des O'Connor as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for everybody for joining us on the Single and Stilettos show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com. And if you would like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns them off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.